Book 2. Welcome to Jackie's Litter Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for our bookish update. First of all, you know what I really don't like is how when I watch YouTube videos now, how unless you click cancel, YouTube will automatically go to the next video that the algorithm picks. And I don't really like that. I find that incredibly annoying because sometimes when I have YouTube playing, I'm doing other stuff at the same time. Like putting away clothes, or, brushing my teeth, or, working on something, or watching TV or something at the same time. And then if I don't notice it, like if I don't, for those few seconds, if I don't click cancel right away, right after the ads are done playing, that it's going to go to the next one. Which I think that's, to me, that's just a way for the algorithm to keep you watching their videos. And it just drives me, I want to pick what I want to watch. And sometimes when I'm done with the video, oftentimes actually, I'm going to leave my computer and not be watching another video right after that one. So I don't want it to automatically go to the next video. I want to be able to pick the videos when I watch them. And yes, I can technically click cancel. And maybe this is a little thing. Maybe other people aren't bothered by this new thing that YouTube is doing. But it irks me. So that's all it's just been one of the things that's been bugging me. And it's hard to, when I'm typing messages to my friends and if I complain to them about it, it's kind of hard to figure out exactly how to describe it to my friends. So it's easier to explain it verbally. And, my friends, my friends I know in person, they're not here. So they're we live far away from each other. So it's like I have to communicate with them either calling them or texting them or, typing messages. And one of them, I don't really talk on the phone at all. And I don't know when I can call her. And then the other one, her phone is I can't call her. Because I don't know when she's going to get access to her phone again or whatever. So that's the only way I communicate with her. And that's why I kind of got back into Facebook because of that. Because that's the only way I communicate with her. Which is fine. I mean, it's just that I was reminded why Facebook can be so stressful. And it's partly my own fault. I had a lot of groups back in the day, and I did a lot of role play, so now I feel obligated to those groups. A couple of them I left, but for some reason it still shows on my main homepage on Facebook that I'm still part of those groups. I mean, or at least it shows, it's like, no, I left those groups. I'm not part of them anymore, unless, but I don't know. I swear I left both these groups, and for some reason it says I'm still part. It looks like it's saying I'm still part of them when I'm not. I left them. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to vent about that for a second. Those things for a second. But anyway, now let's get to the reading content. So I finished the Crusades book, Islam and Christianity and the Struggle for Religious Supremacy. I think the title is called, by Geoffrey Henley. Again, another long title. But anyway, it was good. A lot of information, though. Like I said in my review on Goodreads, at times it felt overwhelming. But it was still very, very good. I did like how it elaborated more on the details of the Crusades themselves. And this fight over Jerusalem, who the holy city belonged to. Because, of course, in Islam, they have Allah, and then we have the Christian God, because I'm Christian, so. And they're all trying to fight over who gets to claim Jerusalem as their holy city. And, at first, I think the first crusade, Christianity, the Christian army won. But then Islam was like, nope, we're getting it back. And ever since then, the Christian army, led by the English and French king, and all the other European monarchs, tried to fight for it back and never got it back. And I think from what I read, it was King Richard the Lionheart as he's nicknamed, who got it back. So which means like that part of in Robin Hood where they always have like King Richard's fighting in the Crusades. They mention that in the Robin Hood books, or at least Robin Hood that I'm familiar with, and so that part's true. That really did happen, and so that was kind of, I think it's kind of cool. I like it when, I can learn a little bit about history in a bit of a more or less conventional way, like learning through a work of fiction or something, like a movie or TV show or, a book. Like, yeah, it might not be 100, it might not be accurate, 100% accurate, but there might be enough information that, that little bit of info that that little bit of information that they give you that's kind of hidden in the fiction. And then later, when you start reading nonfiction about it, if you get into nonfiction, then you find out, so that's true. That is accurate. That little bit of information, like I said, in all the Robin Hood stories, they include the whole Crusades, and King Richard went to the Crusades, and that's how Prince John, while he was gone, he took over. Which I think that King Richard gave it to him at first, but then because he was his brother, but then he ended up proving untrustworthy and basically took the throne from Richard while he was gone, took advantage of it. I also, it's interesting, like the last couple chapters that Geoffrey Hinley was talking about how today historians kind of question if the Crusades were worth it. Like with all the violence and everything and the wars and all that, because claiming it Jerusalem, trying to get it back, was from Islam, and Islam trying to hold on to it or get it back from Christianity. It's supposed to be about, faith in your religious beliefs. And religion, ideally is all about peace and having faith and, believing in something that can take care of you and guide you. Not tell you what to do, but just guide you and give you hope about the world and give you a reason to, that, like, it's supposed to be a peaceful concept, a concept of good and morality, and people are fighting in the name of God, which, defending yourself is not like a bad thing. But it's interesting that these really violent wars and killing people just for the sake of claiming this piece of land that is a holy city to your religion, like, is it really worth that? That's what a lot of historians were asking themselves at the, so I thought that was just an interesting thing to think about, and how a lot of people justify a lot of religious figures that claim to be religious figures, and men and women of the cloth, that they work for God, they're doing it for God and for the greater good. They will continuously justify their actions. But sometimes when they're justifying their actions, they're doing bad things or cruel things to the people that it's debatable if they deserve it or not. And so I always found that interesting to read about, whether it's in fiction or nonfiction, the whole idea of using your religion and God as an excuse to, to cover up, just to do bad things. So I finished that one, although towards the end I was like, okay, I want to move on because I've been thinking about other books, and it doesn't mean like, and obviously I liked the book. I liked reading about the Crusades and everything, but it was a lot, and I was, I was thinking about all these other books, especially some new books I bought recently that I wanted to get into. And sometimes, nonfiction can be tedious for me, even if I'm enjoying the subject matter, especially if it's very, like, detailed in the information it's giving you. And sometimes it can seem like too much, and it's like I want to be done. I mean, this one was not as long as like a biography or something. A lot of the biographies I have, but it was still, and it wasn't like, it just was stating the facts and giving the information. Sometimes it's easier for me to get nonfiction if it's done in a creative way. Like, I think that's why I like memoirs, because they're so personal and they're not just stating facts. They're telling a story. You know, which nonfiction, even if it's not a memoir, can still be telling a story. And this was, in a way, is telling the story of the Crusades. And a lot of interesting, a lot of entertaining pieces of information too. Not just informative, but also very amusing anecdotes about the things that these people did. But so anyway, so I read that. I finished that a couple days ago, and it's also hard when I know I have to go to work the next day, or like it's late and I don't want, I want to do other things like, maybe watch some TV or something. And I have to, I'm trying to go to bed in a somewhat decent hour. It's hard when you're, you have that chunk, you have some pages left, a good amount of pages left to read to finish it. And I'm trying to finish it, with time to spare. So I can just chill for a little bit, and not just do something that requires some concentration, but just do something that requires me to just stare at the TV and not have to concentrate as much. But anyway, it was good. It was a good read especially if you want to know more about the Crusades. And so after that, I continued to pick up this book, A Gentleman in Moscow, which I'm really liking. I remember the first time I read it, when I borrowed it from the library, I liked it, but as I said before, when I borrow longer books from the library, especially when I borrow like more than a couple books from the library, that I feel, I'm like trying to prioritize my library books so I can return at least one of them, and then I don't want to have to keep continuously renewing the books, and I don't know how long I could get away with that, because sometimes I don't know for sure, maybe there's not, but I do feel like I would imagine there would be a limit to how many times you can renew a book. Although maybe I could have got this done when I brought it from the library and could have finished it, but then I was, rushing it, trying to get it done, and I had other books to read, I'm sure, at the time. Not just my own books, but other books that I borrowed. But anyway, so I actually think I recall vaguely what was the last part I read before I decided to quote unquote softy and F it. I think when Alexander is is having dinner with the actress, because I think I remember the part when she's like, they hooked up for the night, and then he leaves. Before he leaves, he puts her garment, hangs it up, her blouse or whatever, hangs it up and puts it in the hanger, and he leaves and goes about his business and everything, thinking about things, having very philosophical thoughts. And so we go back to her, and at first she thinks, oh, it's really sweet that he did that, but then later, as she thinks about it, she's like, what right does he have to hang up my clothes? I should be allowed to leave my clothes on the floor if I want to. And I think that was the last part I read, when her getting huffy and pissy about him having the nerve to put away her blouse in the closet and hang it up. And then she pitches a hissy fit, like, where for like a week or so she just decides to leave her clothes on the floor and not bother putting them away. And then one of her maids comes in and is like, gives her a bit of a lecture, and it's like, what are you doing? You need to put these clothes away. They're going to get wrinkled and everything. And she gets mad, throws them out the window. It's like, I can do what I want. And then later that night she goes back outside to fetch the clothes she threw out the window. So basically she had a temper tantrum because she didn't like the fact that he hung up her article of clothing she left after he spent, had a little, after they hooked up. So I thought that was funny. So now I'm finally past that, and it's been like a year or so, and I'm actually on book 3 now. I don't know how many books there are. think they're like 400 something pages. But he sees the little girl Nina had gone to school, and we see her again when she's 13. And I like how she talked about how she was like, why do I need to go to school? Wouldn't it be better to learn via travel? I can learn so much more around the world, instead of getting a formal education. Which, if you think about it, you could see that how even just going out traveling the world and not going to a formal school, it's not necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. I mean, I think it helps. And there's a lot of jobs, if you ever trying to get a good job, then they want you to have a college degree. But I mean, you don't necessarily, if college isn't for you, you don't necessarily have to go to college, as long as you and, your parents are on the same page with that. But it does help to have a college degree, and you can get more creative with your learning. I feel like once you go to college, because after maybe your first year, you can start picking and choosing what classes you want to take, and you pick your major and your minor so that you pick what you want to focus on. Now, of course, every major probably requires certain subjects that you're not interested in, or that you find difficult, or like, I think most majors probably require at least a little bit of a math degree, a math credit, or like, a lot of them probably require an English credit, But it's kind of funny that she was like making the argument. Nina was making the argument of, why can't I just go? Why do I have to actually go to a physical school? I can learn by travel. And there are people that don't learn without going to school, because they get like homeschooled. So yeah, they're still getting the formal education, but they're not actually at the physical place, and they don't have to deal with all that. They just have to deal with their parents on a regular basis. But I think, there are ways, like, if your parents are like smart and really intelligent, then they could probably still teach you without having to like do the traditional schooling method. Like, they can you can have discussions and stuff, or I mean, there's certain subjects that no matter what, it's always going to look like you're in school. Like math, I feel like math, there's no way you can learn that I mean, I guess you can, like, if you start with like counting how many trees are outside your car when you're driving, and then add them or subtract them to this many, and like, or like you use food or something. So I guess, yeah, you can still do it in unconventional ways. So yeah, there are ways you can learn and get the education. It's just people prefer when you have an official document, like, to say that you've had a formal education. I think a lot of times jobs prefer that. But yeah, I love the writing in here, by the way. The beautiful descriptions and how he describes this, the way the hotel was before and the way the world was before is really beautiful. It's also very tragic, because you get the vibe that he's very lonely, but he tries to tries to dismiss it and just, well, that's how it is, whenever, like, he's invited both his friend Mishka, he's his schoolmate and his friend since childhood. He has visited him and he wants him to join him for dinner, but sometimes his friend has to cancel, and he admits that he's disappointed, but at the same time, well, I'm not going to deprive him. He's busy, or he's being the woman he's in love with. And the same thing with when he sees Nina and hangs out with her, she's with one of her own schoolmates, this boy Boris, and they're doing this experiment on gravity, and he invites them to join him, but then they decline, saying, oh, they have, other stuff to do. And he was even disappointed. He was disappointed about that. But like I said, he tries to just, not let it faze him. Or, he, there are times when he talks about how he's He does miss the world outside, but he's trying to be content with the situation, being under house arrest at the hotel. And at one point, he is like, comes to his favorite restaurant in the hotel, and he wants to order this specific wine, but then he finds out that someone had complained about the wine, and so now that it's not fair that they get this fancy wine, but the peasant, the lower class don't get the same thing, and they have to settle for either you get red or you get red or white wine. So now this restaurant has been forced to only have, either red or white wine. They have to have the basic stuff. And he just starts comparing, how it's sad that they have to give that, like, what does the world come to now? What does his world come to? Because now, like, wine kind of represents having the different kinds of wine, different flavors and vintages represent individuality. That's what he compares it to. How each individual label has its own taste and textures, its own flavors. And now it's all the same. Like, you either get the red or you get white. And it just makes him sad. I mean, there are so many little undertones of sadness and bitterness of how the world has moved on and changed, and nothing's the same, and it's not as enjoyable for him. And from this perspective, you do feel bad for him and feel sad that, everything is lost to him, and he slowly lost his family. He just has his friends back. He just has a couple of his friends still around, and he even makes friends with this Nina, this little girl, this preteen girl, which I think she reminds him of his sister, in a way, his sister that he lost, that died. And it's kind of, there's a bittersweetness to the book. But like I said, I am enjoying it. I love how it's written, and all his philosophical thoughts and everything, and I'm glad that he finally got some books that he wanted to read. I like that. And we do have similar taste in books. But, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I do want to read the other book, The Lincoln Tunnel. Because I've read Rules of Civility, and I did like that one. I mean, it wasn't my all-time favorite, but I did like it. And then I'm really enjoying this one. Which is funny because Rules of Civility takes place in the 20s, and I love the 1920s. So you would think that, and I did like I said, I'm not saying I didn't. I mean, I did definitely enjoy Rules of Civility. I'm just saying it wasn't a favorite. I'm definitely liking this one a little bit more. But anyway, so that's A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. And then last but not least, the other book I did start to read is, I just decided to go ahead and pick this up, The Federalist Papers by James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. I did start reading the introduction. I didn't read a lot. I just kind of read, like I said, I started reading I read some of the introduction talking about the impact of the Federalist Papers and how at the time they didn't really know how important it would be. But like Thomas Jefferson, after they wrote it, calling it the best commentary on the principles of government which ever was written. American scholar Clinton Rostier said the most important work, pronounced it the most important work in political science has ever been written or is likely to ever be written. The one product of the American mind is rightly counted among the classics of political theory. And this is a quote from Hamilton. There's some other quotes from Hamilton that I underlined in the introduction. All 13, as Hamilton put on, called upon to deliberate in a new constitution. Oh, wait, okay, that's not important. By reflection. Wait, okay, sorry. Called upon to deliberate a new constitution for the United States of America. He insisted that men could create their own governments by reflection and choice, instead of forever having to depend on accident and force. And he said it would provide a different voice in national dialogue. It would rise above the loudness of declamations and the bitterness of these invectives. And it's been hinted that a lot of people protested against the Federalist Papers. A lot of people did not. Or actually, no, it was that a lot of people were not happy with the Constitution. A lot of people questioned it and didn't like it, and the Federalist Papers were defending it to the people that it was explaining what the point of the Constitution was. I think that's what this introduction hinted at. So yeah, and normally I don't read introductions, but I figured it might be worth reading it, so just to get me into this whole reading these essays and understanding them. Just give me ideas about them. Because, like I said, most of my knowledge comes from, like, Ron Chernow's biography, and which is the only one I've read. I have heard that there are, other biographies out there, or other books that might be not have as much to read in them, like a little, and also there's, of course, the Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical that came from the Ron Chernow biography. That was kind of inspired by that. So that's all I have, all my knowledge about the Federalist Papers. Like I said, I can quote the lyrics of that song, which I remember the song I was trying to remember, that's my favorite, is Nonstop. And like I said, I think that's kind of that song is kind of in the middle. I think. It's been a while since I watched the musical, so I would need to watch it again to remember. Because, I need to watch it. I probably should watch it this year at some point. But, like, all I know is that it was defending the Constitution and explaining the Constitution to, the 13 colonies, particularly, New York and Virginia, I think. I think that's what that comment, I would have to look back on, because I got a comment that kind of explained more, elaborated more on what the Federalist Papers were. And that, according to the lyrics of that song and the song Nonstop, like I said, that John Jay got sick after it was 5. I think I had said 6, but it's actually, I think they said 5 in the song. And that was John Jay, and then James Madison wrote 29, and then Hamilton wrote the other 51. So in total, they wrote 85 essays, which originally that was not the plan. They were gonna write 25 essays, like I said, according to the song. But like I said, I feel like I need to go ahead and start reading this. That way, I'll have more facts and not just have to admit that my only source is the Ron Chernow biography and the Hamilton musical. So I don't really have a lot to... So basically that's all I really have to report on this, is that I've read a little bit of the introduction, and I'm going to read a little bit more, but I'm kind of trying to focus on getting this book read first, and then this one. Although, after I'm done filming, I might start reading a little bit of this, and probably do some annotating while I'm reading it. Which probably means that the best thing I should do is, instead of sitting in my chair here, the one I'm filming on, I should probably sit on the bed, lay on my bed on my stomach or something, because it's kind of hard to write in or mark things in a book when you're sitting and you don't have like a something like a table or desk. So I'm gonna do that. I think I might pick up this one at some next after I finish Agenda in Moscow, but there are a couple other books I want to check. Like I'm still thinking about the Museum of Abandoned Secrets, Ship of Magic, and I'm thinking about Compendium of Dunces as well. But then there's Shadow Rising by or like, Clash of Kings, all the series that I need to get back into and read the next book. I'm also listening to Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is, my reread of it, but like I said, I'm consuming it verbally, so I'm listening to it via audiobook. Because at the time thought I was done with Sarah J. Maas, so I sent, I donated her books, all the books I had at first. So I decided to re-listen to it because it's a fun series. I know people have their problems with it, but as I said with ACOTAR, it's fun. I like Sarah J. Maas's worlds, the Fae and everything, and yeah, they do come off as very humanoid and not like the Celtic lore, Celtic mythology. But it's fun, and I don't mind, the sexy times. They're, like, it's not my priority of the book. I'm really all about the characters and the story itself and the world that Sarah J. Maas creates, the worlds. And I might get into Crescent City one. I keep thinking, I think about it, but I don't know if I would buy it or not, I mean, I could always get it via Kindle or something, that way I won't have to worry about having a physical copy. I could still have it, I just won't have a physical copy to take up space on my shelf. That's how I look at, like, Kindle, or if I buy audiobooks instead of just borrowing them from the library. But I'm still spending money on my books, so it still counts, even if it's not taking up space. But my feelings are probably pretty close to the same. I mean, I don't know. I might not love the characters as much anymore this time around. Like, Celaena's kind of getting on my nerves. I mean, sometimes I like her and I feel for her and everything, feel sympathy for her. And the same thing with Dorian and Chaol. But there are times when I'm just like, okay, we get it. You're a badass. You could kill people really easily. Or, stop being so cocky. Just, I mean, she is a little humbled when she sees the other champions she has to face. But with Nahimi, Princess Nahimi and everything, I feel like that whole situation kind of humbles her a little bit. But she's still kind of cocky and just like, get over yourself, please. And then, like I said, there was a funny scene where, like, it was Celaena's time of the month, and she was in pain. She hadn't had an experience the time of the month cycle since she had been in Dovier and wasn't given anything to eat or not a lot to eat. And so she experiences her first monthly cycle. And the guys, both Dorian and Chaol, come in to talk to her. And she's like, I am in physical pain. And I'm tired. Just let me sleep. Or, it's the point of she's feeling like I'm dying here. And and I believe her. It can be so painful that you do feel like you're dying. Like, that might be dramatic to some people, but for me, I have been, like, when I first started, like, when I had my very first experience with that, I was in so much pain, and I was, like, on the floor crying because of that. So, yeah, it can be, it can make you feel like you're dying. And so first Chaol comes in and tries to tell her that he's sympathetic because she found out some information that to do with Nahimi and her people that was horrifying and horrible. And he was like, that is so, he's trying to show sympathy, and he's like, oh, that I am disgusted by this and ashamed, and he just feels so bad. And she's trying to tell him, Kale, I am sick. And he just keeps talking. And finally, she's finally shouting his name. It's like, I'm not feeling good right now. And he's like, right after she throws up. And he's like, oh, you really are sick. Let's get you in the bed. And then she's like, no, I'm not that kind of sick. Although, yeah, laying in bed with a heating pad or something can really help. Or sometimes you just want to sit down and do nothing. Sometimes just doing that, as long as you have a heating pad on your, then that can help. You don't always have to lay down, but I think laying down can really help. So she's like, and he's all of a sudden realized what she means, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go now. I'm not comfortable anymore. I'm gonna leave and let you have your privacy. So he's all squeamish about it, which and it's kind of gross. It's gross, And then Dorian comes in and he was told what was going on. Like, Kale told him, and he's like, he just finds it funny. And is like, oh, you're not in that much pain. And I'm just like, dude, have you ever experienced this? Do you experience this every month? I don't think so. So you cannot tell her she's not in that much pain. You do not know. So you have no right to assume that it's not that bad for her. Especially if she just started having them again. And so he's all dismissive of it. But then they do have, in both cases, he also has a heart-to-heart with her where he's, they kind of just start talking and he feels, trying to tell her how sorry he is, and he understands that she might hate him, and because he's a Havliard, and his father is a tyrant who took the kingdom from her kingdom and Nehemia's kingdom just now, and, but she, was like, I don't hate you. Because like Nehemia, she sees that there's nuances to him. Like, just because he's a Havliard, I don't know how to say it. I have to hear it again. So when I start playing, hopefully maybe the narrator will say her name again, his last name again. But they see that he's not his father. That, yeah, you may have the last name, but he doesn't necessarily, he's trying to be better. He's trying to not turn into his father. He's trying to, do something good and help these people. But they both know, I think, that there's only so much he can do. That he is very limited because, he has to speak to, his father is still alive and is still the king. So his father still can punish him if he, disobeys him. And he would still be considered treasonous. So Dorian is kind of limited. But anyway, so like I said, both times both guys are just as annoying, can be annoying like Celaena, but they also can be characters that I like as well, that I feel for, and I'm charmed by them, and but yeah, it's really fun to listen to it and get back to this world. Yesterday at work, when I was thinking about it, I was like, do I want to continue this? Because, like I said, at the time I was feeling my fresh irritation at Celaena's character. But then as I listened to a little bit more last night when I got home from work, it got past my annoyances and I started to, like her character again. And so I think I will continue to listen to Crime, and I'm going to see how far I can go with the series. Although I'm apprehensive because I know as the series progresses, the books get considerably longer, especially the last one. It's a pretty big book. But I think I'll keep going, and I can always adjust the speed, or I could get the book another way. I don't want to buy it because, I don't want to have that one book in the series and not have the other books, and I'm not gonna buy it. Like, I love the series, I enjoy the series very much, but I don't love it to the point where I have to buy it again. Although I do like the new covers. I actually kind of like them, but I also like the old ones too. Like, I think a lot of people don't necessarily love the old ones because, again, a person on the cover. Although at least it's not a movie or TV show tie-in edition, because there isn't one that exists yet. Although I think Sarah J. Maas's Worlds would be great for adapting to a TV show or movie. But Hollywood has considerably ruined that for people with a lot of their shows. especially in the streaming networks. So I don't know if that will ever happen, if Sarah J. Maas will risk giving anyone else the rights. But I would love to see both ACOTAR and Throne of Glass to be adapted. So anyway, I'm listening to that. I probably won't. I don't know if I'll listen to Crown of Midnight right away though. I might wait because I do have another audiobook that I'm listening to, and that's going to be coming in a couple weeks. As well. So I'm gonna wait to get to Crown of Midnight. But I am. Okay, I'll do that in a minute. I have an Apple Watch. My activity is alerting me that it's time to stand, which is really annoying. Especially because if I want to sit for a little while, like I'm reading a book or something, I'm not ready to stand up and take a break. But it's like time to stand. But anyway, like I said, I think I'm gonna get to this one next, Pursuit of Love by Nancy Mitford. Which I think there's actually a video on YouTube about the Mitford sisters. Like, I guess there's more than one in the, But, I like this cover. I like this black and white phonograph cover with the girl in the dress and holding the flowers, which I like the dress. Although, like, it feels more like Gone with the Wind than, I guess that would be the same time period. I don't know, but it feels very, like, I could see, what is her name? Scarlett wearing a dress like this. Although, I don't know if she wore white. But yeah, I'm gonna read this too as well this month. And I do want to, as you can see, the whole plan to do a Jane Austen readathon, which I feel bad because I even told my sister in my thank you note to her that I was going to do that, and I haven't done it. I haven't picked up any Jane Austen books. Although I might pick one up soon. But I don't like this. This is really annoying because then I can't read all the back description. Well, although the importance of the main explanation of the plot is not covered, so maybe it's not so bad, but still kind of annoying, these little stickers. And I think this was originally a library book. Or it was like one of those books you can buy at like one of those used bookstores or something. But anyway, yeah, I don't like all this stuff on here. But oh well. Anyway. So that is my update video for you guys. I would love to know what you are currently reading right now. How your reading is going in February. Are you reading, as always, I'd love to know if you're reading romance books, or do you read, are you reading books for Black History Month? Or are you just reading whatever you want, like what I'm kind of doing? And I hope, and also if any of you, are any of you guys bothered by the whole YouTube thing where it will automatically be like, this will be the next video you're gonna watch unless you click cancel? Are any of you guys bothered by it? Or maybe you just don't care and it's just not that big of a deal. I'm the only one who's bothered by it. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already and you're interested in watching more of my videos. And also, if you click the bell icon below, you'll be notified when my videos come up, only if you want to. And I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!